right, welcome to another Friday night episode of Keto Rocks Radio. I am Jim Hobbs, and down below is my carnivore co-host, Brian Dammit, Forsythe of the band Kix, and Rhino Bucket. And returning for her monthly check-in and update, we are so glad to welcome back Carrie Husband back to the podcast. So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, you shared great news last time you were here, and we saw the transformation with your experience that you and Ken had up on the mountain, and you're still glowing, but I understand you got a lot more this year that keeps taking place and unfolding for you.
My life is so amazing right now. It's like Christmas every day, and I am not exaggerating. The things that are coming into our life, the things that are coming into our sphere, like answers to questions that have been hanging out there forever. It's like everything is now in this fullness of culmination. And in fact, I described it to Ken today. I said, it's interesting because I feel like I just got my last puzzle piece literally this morning. That's why this board is so busy with stuff, that I literally got my last puzzle piece and I stuck it in the middle. You know how like life, when you first start and you got a puzzle and you have to do the borders, right? You do the easiest thing first. You set your parameters, and then you got to separate everything out in likened colors. And then the painstaking journey to put all those pieces together. And it's like that last little bit that you just have to slightly turn those last pieces, just a slight movement. And then they just go in, ding, 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 done. That's what I feels like that I entered into. And I literally feel like the last piece fell in place this morning. So if I seem like I'm effervescing more than normal, it's because there was some major revelations that came in this morning right before I went to the gym. And I'm still reeling from it, honestly. But back to the subject at hand, the book that will change every woman's life that's my age. This is something that I have been looking for, something that I've been trying to answer, because I didn't want to go on to hormone replacement therapy. I didn't want to do the bioidentical hormones. I didn't want to do any of that. And I knew that there had to be an answer. And so our wonderful friend, Steve Conover, sent me a link to a video with Dr. Elizabeth Bright. And everything has changed. Within a week, my life has been transformed in my physical avatar body. Like, I'm in awe. I am in awe. And in fact, this book is good for any woman to read at any age. It's not just for a menopausal woman, because we're at a place where, because consciousness is increasing so much and we're entering into this time of unity and unconditional love, that literally means that everything that isn't vibrating to that frequency is all falling apart. And the truth of those institutions are being revealed for what they are, because they weren't operating in the principle of unconditional love and do no harm. So now we have champions that are out there that have been the forerunners to bring things to light that need to change, specifically for us women to see ourselves differently as empowered, and that menopause is not a death sentence. We don't have to mourn the loss of the ability to reproduce. In fact, we are reborn. And it's a new zest in life that doesn't have to be about the deteriorating of the bones and the sagging everything and looking old and decrepit. We can embrace our crone years and be stronger than ever through dietary change. We don't need pills. We don't need shots. We don't need any of that. We just need to change our freaking diet. How simple is that? Let food be thy medicine.
Bingo.
Boom. I'm telling you. So I'm just going to share a little bit more, and then we'll just leave it open for you guys to share too, of course, because I don't want to hog this whole podcast, because sometimes I tend to. But this is what happened to me. So I watched this interview. I didn't even get the book yet. And Dr. Bright was discussing the need for increased fat. Now, okay, I'm going to mention another person out there. He really helped me in the beginning, but I think I got more confused than anything else. Dr. Eric Berg. He's got a very huge following on YouTube, and he's brought a lot of information forward, and I'm really grateful for it. However, some of the information that he was giving was extremely confusing because he's heavy plant-based, right? And so we're talking eating bowls and bowls of salad with just a little bit of meat and a little bit of fat, and decrease your dietary fat so that the body can use its own fat. Well, from what I'm comprehending, that was not the right thing to do for me. And then I would find people that would say that women who are perimenopause or in menopause itself need to do carb cycling. So one day a week, they need to have a heavy carb day to reset, because heaven forbid you screw up your hormones. So all of a sudden I had fear. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not sleeping. I'm not losing any more weight. I'm not feeling good. My energy is low. I'm trying to substitute it with more caffeine, and I'm supposed to be feeling good. There's something missing here, right? So then I would decrease more of my dietary fat. Oh my God, that was the absolute worst thing I could do. No wonder why I was so miserable. And she recommends 2 to 4 sticks of butter a day. Now, the warning, if you are on a plant-based diet, do not do this. It will kill you. You have to cut all of those out, and it has to be meat. It has to be fatty meats with an additional fat with the butter, because if you don't, you're going to get that plaque built up in the arteries, and it's going to do you more harm than good. So in 2 days, I increased my dietary fat through butter, but it was actually through ghee, because I can't handle the proteins from A1 or A2. It doesn't matter what kind of milk it's coming from. I can't handle them. It makes my asthma really angry, and I still get joint inflammation. So I started adding more ghee. I add ghee in my tea. I add ghee in my coffee. I put ghee on top of my steak. I take ghee before I go to bed. I am just a ghee freak right now. Everything's ghee. I mean, I might as well use it as a moisturizer, because it's like in everything else. It's probably good for the hair too. Anyway, can you tell I'm excited? Oh my God. So in the first 2 days, I did increase my ghee anywhere between 1.5 to 2 sticks of butter a day equivalent. Within those days, I dropped 3 pounds. Within a week, I dropped 5 pounds. Oh my God, are you kidding me? I was like, after Crestone, I went on like complete shutdown. My hot flashes are gone. I started cycling again. I was doing such a disservice to my body, thinking that I was with the proteins and eating what fats that I just wasn't getting enough.
Right.
And it's like, no wonder why I felt like crap. So, if anybody is hearing this and is horrified by, well, your crowd probably won't, but if anybody else listens to me, they might be horrified when I hear hear me say 1 to 2 sticks of butter. But it's literally changed everything. My sleep is better. I have more energy in the day. There's a freshness and a vitality to me that I didn't have, that I wasn't having. I mean, there was things that were going on, and Crestone launched me into this new place spiritually. And it's like, because I was changed and altered in that, this information came into my sphere as an answer to the body's resolve. So my soul and spirit, that resolve happened. And this was like literally the last piece that I needed. I am telling you, I have a brand new life now. I have such a greater outlook for a hope in my future, in my now moment, like never before. And because of that, it's like taken away all the cravings for everything else. There's nothing that I'm craving. There's nothing that I'm craving. It all went away. And now I even eat less food. I'm eating less meat now than I was before, because I'm getting my calories, I'm getting my energy from the fat. So what does this do? Especially since I'm moving into making my own ghee, instead of having to pay the expensive price for it, I can make my own. In making ghee, it's even impacted the budget financially, because I can have 1 ribeye steak and a couple eggs in the morning. I'm done. I don't need anything else. Like before, I was trying to fit into OMAD. I was trying to fit into that. And she says for menopausal women, shouldn't do any fasting. She doesn't recommend any fasting, because hers is about the balancing of the endocrine system and not causing additional harm, which spikes cortisol. And so that, I'm not saying that's for everyone, because for some people, OMAD is great. For some, the buy the 2 meals a day, she recommends 3 meals a day, and making sure you get all that fat. And I highly recommend that for anybody that has endocrine issues, that have the imbalances, to go and do fat fasting and to do what she is recommending, because that is her specialty. She knows what she's talking about. her life is a testimony, and all of her patients' lives are a testimony. And here's just another one. So it's an amazing day to be alive. It's an amazing day to be a woman, because everything is changing about how we have thought about ourselves. Changing from the inside out. It's incredible.
Well, you've said a lot. And
I know.
No, it's all good. It's all good. No, it's all great. I'll let Brian chime in too. But you know what I think we've always said here is that you got to seek to understand your body and seek what's going to remedy your body. And everybody's journey is different. And so it's not a one diet fix all. It's a lifestyle. And that's why it has to be you going out there seeking the answers for your body and for your situation. There's nobody that knows Carrie's body better than Carrie.
That's right.
No one knows Brian's body better than Brian, and no one knows Jim's body better than Jim. When we go to a cookie cutter, big pharma, big medical system, they treat everybody the same. That's why pharmacogenomics makes a little bit of sense to do, because it literally shows how your own DNA is breaking down what they're subscribing to you or prescribing to you, and how your body's going to digest it. Our bodies are differently. We come from our ancestors. We come from different parts of the world. We endure different stuff. Our DNA is individually and unique to us.
Epigenetics.
So, I hear you speaking, and I it goes along with what Peggy and I was talking about this morning. She had watched the podcast by Dr. Chris Palmer on diet of nutrition for mental health. And we were discussing this because so many people are diagnosed, especially the youth of our country, are being diagnosed with ADHD and all these other, and bipolar. I mean, it's like bipolar is the popular phrase now that someone's being diagnosed with, schizophrenia, all these different mental illnesses. And it's amazing to me, these didn't really become so prevalent until we got off the fats, till we got off the butters, till we made fat the enemy. And so if you look at it from the system, and I'm not trying to make it conspiratorial, but the reality of it is, I don't see how you can't have these smart people who've done all these so-called tests, but have been bought out by the same people who are going to profit from your unhealthy habits, and to create a need so they can prescribe you the solution or the pill. I know, Brian, you posted a lot of stuff this week in regards to like the American Heart Foundation, and who they pay, and who funds all that, who funds that organization. And so the average person who's kept in the blender in our country, whether it's through commuting times, traffic, politics, religion, you name it, duality, keeps you not able to center yourself, meditate, and to focus on the most important creature that's here, and that's you, and that's your life. And that's why it's so exciting to hear people from different walks of life, from different parts of the country, share their journey. Sharing, Crystal and Rob shared theirs last week. You've been sharing your journey for a while with us, but even that keeps unfolding. Like today, you're unfolding this live, like this discovery is recent, it's now. And so that's why when we are continuing in that seeking mode, that we don't know it all, we are seeking for the truth, because I know the truth is out there. And when we find it, not only do we spiritually know it, but our body knows it. And when those two come in alignment, you radiate, and you know that you are living a healthy lifestyle. So
absolutely.
Anyway, Brian, what are your thoughts in regards to this find? Have you heard of Dr. Elizabeth Bright before?
I think I've heard the name, but I haven't checked into it. But yeah, like you said, one size does not fit all, and it is confusing. You hear so many different things, and it does depend on if you're a man or a woman, or all that stuff you have to take into consideration in each individual. Because I've seen there's a few females that do this, that they post on Instagram and stuff. And the one was what's her name? That Sarah. She used to go by Carnivore Yogi, but she changed her name since then. But that's another one that she dove into this head first carnivore, the intermittent fasting, the 1 meal a day thing, and yeah, she was struggling, and then she figured out the whole hormone thing and the circadian rhythm thing, and so there's a lot. I mean, a lot of it is the diet, but there's it is pretty much your whole lifestyle around it as well. I mean, everything affects everything. It's all a system. Man, I've been listening to so many podcasts, I can't even remember who said what anymore. But yeah, I mean, you can fix one thing, but it's all together, and the way one thing works is the way everything works. It's like they're all working together, and if you don't change everything or at least tweak it, one thing may not take care of the whole problem.
Brian and Carrie, you said something like, you got to know what you're doing in regards to you. If you're living a vegetarian lifestyle and you're adding this to it, it's not going to work. It's probably going to kill you. But that's what I hear this over and over from different people who say, I'm trying to do keto, but when you're adding the fats with the sugars and the carbs, you're doing yourself such harm to your body. Like, you're making your body more unhealthy. And even though you may say, well, I live pretty much a keto lifestyle. No, it's not. It's either you're living a keto lifestyle or you're
not.
Or you're not. And it's okay if it's not. That's okay. That's where you are. You need to know honestly where you are. But to add fats or add, the type of red meats that we devour, it's not going to bring you the same benefits if you are also ingesting the processed foods, the sugars, because it's going to harm your body. And that's why when people, they just don't understand that. And they'll say, I do mostly carnivore, I do mostly keto lifestyle, but I'm not really feeling the impact. Well, it's like breathing air. You may breathe air. I'm breathing underwater. It's not the same thing. If you say, well, I'll come up and take a breath of air, but I'll go back down and be underwater. It's not the same thing as you breathing cleanly fresh air every time you take a breath. It's going to drown you. And that's what happens when you're incorporating the process, the sugar, and the food that they promote as healthy, the grains, the seed oils, and you mix that with the fats. It's a deadly combination. And so they don't really care about you. If they can get you to be sick, no matter how they're making you sick, then you still got to go to them for the solution and for the pill. And that's why you literally, you and Carrie, for you sharing your story is so impactful, because you're sharing transparently your journey. You're saying, hey, this is where I got to. I knew it had to be something. I knew in my spirit, in my soul, there was something missing about it, and it came to you, and it's remedied the situation. And by you sharing that, it now gives somebody else who's maybe dealing with or walking that same path to go, let me look into this. And they go check on Dr. Elizabeth Bright's book. And is it called Menopause? Is that what the name of it was?
It's called Good Fats, or Good Fat is Good for Women. Menopause. So,
and yet the narrative since the 70s has been that fats are our enemy. And that thought form, it's been so programmed into the American culture and into the thought form of people who believe they're spouting the right thing. Fats are bad. They eliminate fat. I know people who are literally grossed out by fat because they believe it's going to cause them to have a heart attack. It's going to cause them to have high cholesterol.
Indoctrination.
Yes.
But that cholesterol is what our body uses to make its hormones.
Right.
The body won't make hormones from coconut oil or avocado oil or olive oil. It only comes from animal fats. So if we're having a disruption or issues in a balance in our endocrine system, and it has to do with hormones, it's because people are scared to death of cholesterol. Cholesterol is that which our body uses for hormone making. And so, of course, if you're not going to do it, all of a sudden they're all freaked out about the high cholesterol, and it's interesting knowing that there are insurance companies, life insurance companies, if you get a blood test and you have high cholesterol, which each one of us would test for, and we would have high cholesterol, they won't insure somebody. Right. Well, that's bunk. Like, it's so stupid because people who are on a carnivore diet live longer. Like everything. And so actually the payout on the life insurance policy is going to be a lot longer in the future than somebody that eats a high carb, low fat, full of sugar diet, right? They're going to have to pay out on that life insurance policy a lot sooner, which means they're not going to be collecting and making money, but yet they will go ahead and say, oh, we have to reject you because you have high cholesterol. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Not anymore. It's like there's so much craziness that is surfacing that we're become aware of, that this craziness will just cease to be, because we're going to stop feeding into the lies. We're going to be embracing that truth, and our lifestyles and who we are as people will show it. We don't have to talk about it. We just need to live it and be it. We are our own living testimony. When people come to us and go, oh my God, you're 50. How come you look the way you do and you're 50? Well, that's a really good question. And they look like they're 70 and they're 40. There's something really wrong with that. Right. And I wanted to point out, for some people to understand a little bit more of what happened to our medical system. Her first chapter in this book is so good, especially with women's health and how things came about to be. The first chapter is all about the history. And I mean, my job, the things that they used to do, like when women would stop their menses, they felt that a lot of the issues with that is they would have to continue to make them bleed. So they would literally cut them underneath their nipples or on their big toe or something else and let them bleed, because they felt that that is what was needed because the menses stopped. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, I'm glad I was born when I was born and not back then. So this is a very telling book, and it does talk about, like what even Brian has said before, follow the money. Follow the money and understand that hormone replacement therapy, all of these, the pharmaceutical companies, isn't about our health. And it's not a conspiracy, because, it is a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory. That's what I meant to say. Look at what the word means with conspiracy and the way it's used. Conspiring, coming together to have an outcome. There's a positive side of conspiring and a negative side, just like there is in everything in duality. But there are those that have conspired to make money, and therefore the only way they can do that is through pharmaceuticals. You can't patent food. Right. You can patent pharmaceuticals. You can make things that are man-made, not what nature makes. So, there's a lot to be shared about that. And when we come and talk about these things, I see us talking about them objectively. Like, I don't see us necessarily bashing anything, because we always have to have a choice. That's how duality works. There are people who are choosing to live their life by going through the route of pharmaceuticals and going to, allopathic medicine. And there's nothing wrong for them, because that's their choice. That's what they choose. But the other side is available. And the beautiful thing about that is we have the ability through comparisons to see what it's like this way and what it's like this way. And so some of us have gone through both sides now, right? I was raised into that pharmaceutical thing. I was on, and I know it was because my endocrine system was out of whack. Now I get it, because the way my family ate, I was on antidepressants and all these things. I was on sleep medication because I couldn't sleep. Oh my God, that's what happens when your family goes, fat's bad for you. So we're cutting all the fat out of your diet and we're just going to bring grains in. I wonder why I started having all of those problems, right?
Yeah. That's actually what Peggy and I were talking about this morning, and I never finished that train of thought, was the fact that the body, when you don't get enough sleep, or you're not giving it the proper food for fuel to repair itself. And so to me, processed foods, seed oils, all those things, the body innately is a survivor. So when you ingest those types of food, the body spends all its energy in saying, fire alarm, fire alarm, fire alarm. And it spends all its resources to deal with what you're ingesting. and it takes away from what would be growing and helping your synapses and helping dealing with the mental illnesses or the issues, anxiety, all those other issues that come into play. It doesn't have enough resources to deal with it. And that's why I believe that these people who go on this low carb, keto carnivore lifestyle, and the positive impact it has on the mental illnesses that they have been plagued with, those resources are no longer fighting the fires. The fires are out, and now your body has the resources, the energy to be able to go take care of the other parts that are just as important, but not as a fire alarm. And so that's why we say all the time, food is fuel, but also knowledge will set you free. And when you apply the knowledge and you understand your body, and you're able to apply the fats or the food and the lifestyle that's going to benefit your body through your circadian rhythm and grounding and all those other options that we all have to choose from, and you'll start to get in tune with your body, just like, Brian, like a guitar. You'll start to understand how every guitar is a little bit different, has a little bit of a personality by itself, and how that tuning acts in different climates. And so, that's what we have to individually learn how to do, but someone cannot do it for us. We must take that first step. We must be seeking that which truth is going to set us free. And until we decide to literally make that conscious declaration that I'm going to go find out what's going to make my body whole, you're just going to be stuck in that system that they want you to be stuck in, and be frustrated and be willing to lose a toe every 2 years because you're not willing to give up sugars.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just lost my train of thought.
It'll come back around.
No, you were saying, what was I going to say? I was just going to say something. I was going to add to that. God, you're going to have to edit.
The train's going to come
around. What were you just saying?
It's one of those moments.
Yeah, I just went.
I was talking about how food is fuel and how the food is literally our body.
Oh no, okay.
There we go.
I got it.
Shoot,
You were talking about being educated, acquiring the knowledge, and a lot of people they message me all the time with questions and stuff, and I try to pass on the knowledge, but I think that is a big part of the problem too, is the fact that a lot of these foods, they don't feel like they're killing you. They're like, oh, this tastes really good. How could this be bad? And, and it's just this long drawn out process over like 20 years. And all of a sudden you're just sick. And, people don't understand what those little ingredients that they can't even read are doing to their body. And that's where the research and the knowledge, to find out about this stuff. And I mean, it's so easy for me to turn down like a particular food if I know what's in it. It's like I look at it and I'm going, I'm not putting that in my body. And if everybody understood, and you have to know the reason why, as well.
That's a big deal. Yes, your why has to be big enough to sustain or stand up to.
Yeah, just to look at an ingredient and think, oh, that's bad, without knowing why it's bad, and what it actually does to you if you eat that. So yeah, that's what I was trying to, I don't know.
That's a good point. I actually wanted to add and piggyback off that, because my thought in having this conversation with you guys, especially with people that fall off the wagon or the keto, there's sometimes keto and sometimes they're not. If we're not addressing some of the issues that lie underneath it, and what I'm talking about is those areas within ourselves that we're not really willing to look at, the things that cause triggers in our life, the things that make us unhappy, the things that cause depression. If we aren't healing ourselves in that emotional standpoint too, keto isn't going to work for anybody, because I'll tell you why. It is very restricted. And when you get to the point when you're a carnivore, it gets even fuller restriction. And the reason why we keep going back to those foods is because they make us temporarily feel good. It's like a band-aid, and anybody that, especially with a woman, you hear us laugh all the time, and we laugh at ourselves. At that time of month, we start craving chocolate. Well, why is that? Why do we go to chocolate? What benefit does chocolate give us? And it's a temporary bandage. Alcohol is a temporary bandage. You can even use other kinds of medicines that are natural as temporary bandages, but those were only meant to get you from point A to point B in order to make another change. So if we don't address those things, people are going to fall off the keto bandwagon. People are going to fall off the carnivore because it won't matter to them. If they have unresolved trauma, if they have issues that are causing stress and depression, and they have a really bad day and they get triggered, they're going to dump keto, they're going to dump carnivore, and they're going to go get a bag of Cheetos, or they're going to get chocolate bars, or they're going to grab alcohol, or they're going to go back to that which is they have found comfort in, because they're not addressing the areas. So when we talk about keto or carnivore healing ourselves, it's one thing to heal the physical body. We don't address the other things, and Brian addressed that before, how everything works together. If we don't address the other areas, keto isn't going to work for someone.
Right.
It's only a step. Like if you switch to carnivore and all of a sudden you start feeling good, and your body is now not beating you up with the alarm, right? The 5-alarm fire, and you've got inflammation all over your body, and you hurt, and whatever it is, whether it's asthma, joint pain, it doesn't matter. And your brain fog, all of that, this 5 o'clock alarm, or 5 alarm fire is going off in your body, and it's trying to tell you something, and you eliminate that. That is so that you aren't fighting on all fronts. And that's when the chair should be turned inward to start healing the things that are going on the inside of you that you've been trying to put bandages on with food. Because, everybody can list a comfort food. And how many of our comfort foods are really keto or carnivore?
Right.
Right? A grilled cheese sandwich and tomato bisque soup. That's comfort food. But that's deadly food over time if you keep using it and eating it every day, because you need it for comfort.
Right.
Yeah, the same thing applies, like me being in recovery for alcohol and drugs. They talk about that. When you get sober, you're taking your medicine away.
That's
so
right.
if you don't replace it with something, you'll go back to it, and that's where you have to fix the inside. It's like this spiritual thing you have to work on to take the place of, because that's why they call alcohol spirits, because
exactly
replacing your spirituality.
Exactly. And and I think the beautiful thing about all of this is, and I love Dr. Elizabeth's her take on this, is especially like with women and women's health, because that's where her main focus is. If we start training our children up in the way they should go, and we're not talking through a religion, we're not talking about anything so that we can crush their little spirits and form them into the likeness of our image. What we're doing is we're forming them in the likeness of the divine image that they need to discover. And if we can set them up to succeed by having the correct diets that support them in a hormonal system, especially when they're going through puberty and all of that, if we can set them up to succeed with something that allows their endocrine system to be balanced, how much more of a smooth transition would it be for them? How much more would it be to not be plaguing them, so that we have the rise of childhood diabetes and obesity that we see in our country today, that is feeding the pharmacological and the medical systems? If we can change all of that by starting with us ourselves. And then when you become grandparents, if your lifestyle is so effective and you have such vibrancy that your children are asking you questions, then you can teach them to change their ways so that they can raise their children up. And so there's a whole movement that is going on right now that is addressing in all three areas. That is, this simultaneously is happening in all of these areas that are coming together for the future generations. Because if we aren't thinking about future generations, then we are in total stuck service to our own selves.
Right.
You know, and I know what the external world is talking about with climate change and all that, but I'll tell you what, if we all change ourselves on the inside, the climate change issue on the outside won't be a problem. Why do you think there's a five alarm fire going on in the environment? Because it's matching what's going on in ours. It's the same thing. Climate change on the outside means there's been a climate change on the inside, and you are burning hot, full of inflammation. And what causes that? Your food. Look at your food. Start with your food first, and then let's dig and figure out where that alarm is coming from in your soul, from wounds and traumas. You know, I talk all the time about shadow work, and there are some people that just want to slap me silly. They just want to slap me because they're tired of me hearing it. I'll stop talking about doing shadow work when none of us have to do it anymore.
Well said.
Because until then, we're going to see wars and chaos and confusion in our outer world, and we have the ability to do it. So what are we doing? We're taking our health back. That's changing the pharmaceutical companies. We're taking our spirituality back, which is coming kind of against the religious systems. We're taking our soul power back, our divinity, which then is allowing us to step into our sovereignty so that we can actually change the world and make a difference, instead of leaving it for our government to do it for us, which all they do is just govern the mind and put clamps on us so that we never rise up out of the serfs that they want us to be. And again, this is coming from an objective standpoint, because I'm not pointing the fingers at them saying it's their fault. I'm pointing all of them at me and saying it's my fault.
No,
I did this to myself.
Listen, I came to that conclusion a while back that if I needed to vote for somebody to govern me, for me to be okay, and there was something wrong, I had given my power away. And then that really started my really deep dive into how I looked at all aspects of my life and how I've given my life away, whether it's to a doctor because someone trained him and gave him the title of doctor, MD. And then, you know, somebody who's been given themselves a title of a American Heart Association. Oh, these people must really care about my heart. But but in all of those cases, you're literally giving your power away to something that doesn't have power unless you give them your power. That's a dead entity. Right. That's a dead entity. And, you know, you two were talking about, you know, if you don't know your why, and if you just give it up temporarily and then you're going to fill it with something else, it's the same reason why people who get gastro bypasses have to go through counseling, because the reason why they're in that position is because food has been their comforter. And so they need to know that, and like Brian said, all right, so you're no longer going to be able to have the amounts that you've had before to comfort you. And a lot of people who get a gastro bypass turn to alcohol as a way to medicate themselves in that position. And so I see a lot of people, I won't say all of them, but almost the majority of people who I personally know who have got a gastro bypass, it's always failed in the end because they've returned back to the comfort food, or they did the worst. They're doing the alcohol and the comfort food. And so over time, that elastic, their stomach gets big, they put the weight back on. And now what do you as a being feel like? You feel like a failure because now you failed even doing what was supposed to be your savior, all because you did not do the work. We don't need to go somebody else to fix us. We have to fix us from the inside out, and then we're able to impact the world around us. I love your analogy, Carrie, about the fire, because I'm right there with you. I believe that if we stop pointing fingers at everybody saying it's it's your fault, and realize that we're just pointing at mirrors back at ours, and what's causing me to point my finger at that person. And I know we're talking, as you say, objectively about the mirrors as the big pharma, the big food. But the reality of it is, why do you think you are addicted? Why do you think they tell you that you don't need fat? Brian, you need to limit your meat intake. You need to limit your eggs to 2 or 3 eggs a week. This 2 to 3 eggs a day is going to cause you. So all these fear tactics, all this thought forms are indoctrinated into us. And then when we actually have our own thought form on our own to go, wait a minute, I always feel better when I just eat ribeyes and eggs. And then when someone says, oh, no. Listen, that's they're trying to get you to believe that the truth that you are experiencing is a lie. And so when the reality of it is they're peddling the lies as a truth. And until you realize and experience what truth really is, truth doesn't need defending. Just go out and experience it. You're going to be able to know what works for you, regardless of who's telling you to not eat eggs or to eat eggs. And that's why, even on this show, we're sharing a lot of information with people. Carrie's sharing her life, we're sharing our lives. But the reality of it is none of that really matters until you start to take accountability for the life that you're living and be honest with yourself. Like, why are you eating certain foods? Is it because someone told you to eat that way? Is it because the American standard diet was given to you in grade school and you're a follower of rules? So therefore, you're just not going to deviate, because if you deviate, you're going to feel guilty? No, there's nothing to feel guilty about. If you're seeking truth, there is no guilt upon you. And when you start to experience truth working in you, then you're going to know that path that you're walking on is pure. And you're also going to know that a lot of what you've been told probably wasn't what you should have been told. And you're going to start to know your own knowing. And that goes into a whole nother realm. But I love the fact that we openly share our lives with the people who do watch this program. And we're not here judging anyone in regards to where they are. We're only giving you food for thought and the ability for you to go out and research it on your own. Because, like I said, it's your body, it's your life. What do you want to do with it? And so the choices are all yours. All I'm encouraging you to do is take back those choices that you've given away to other entities and utilize that and take back your power so that you can be powerful.
Exactly. That's where it comes from with the sovereign stand. Because every time I'm hearing you speak and I'm like, you're talking about us taking a sovereign stand, about, not having people tell us what to do. And then I'll say one quick thing, and then Brian, I'll let you go because I jumped in at the same time with you. But the sovereign stand that I'm talking about, one of the recollections that I had about just a memory, but that's for another show for another day. Let me say it this way. The reason why we choose to have entities over us and tell us what to do is because we're so accustomed to it. A, we don't know what freedom looks like. B, it's much easier to have an entity over us in case something goes wrong. We have a scapegoat that we can point to. It's because my doctor told me this. It's because the school told me this. It's because I was told to do this. And now look at my life. It's all your fault. When you get to the place in sovereign standing, you are responsible for all your decisions. So therefore, the only way you can point your fingers is back at yourself. And that scares the hell out of a lot of people because they don't even know what that looks like, because they haven't even learned to trust their own decisions. And that's what we're talking about. Learn to trust your own decisions. Learn to trust your body. Listen to what your body's saying. Don't just ignore what your body's saying because a doctor is telling you something else. Because I heard a sad case about a woman who was talking about her breasts hurting, and she was in her early 30s, and a doctor just foofed it off and said, "Oh, you're having pain associated with your breasts because you're menstruating, and all of us women have to deal with it." She actually had stage 4 breast cancer, and she died. So when we listen to our body and our body is telling us something, we need to stop looking at the people that are telling us things. We need to figure out, where are they in our best interest or are they not? Are they under something? Are they under a medical association? Are they under a government umbrella? Are they under a religious umbrella? Because anything that is under anything other than its own personal sovereign autonomy has an agenda, and they are being controlled. And they are being controlled from the top down, which means they're controlling you from the top down in various stages. And it's really scary when you try to pop out on the other side, because guess what? You get to make your own choices. You get to live your own life. You get to create your own environment in what you're doing, without having anybody else come in and tell you what to do. That is so liberating. Talk about setting the captives free. That cry of Moses again, let my people go, should be the anthem. Let my people go. Let all of us go so that we can go live our sovereign lives. Because guaranteed, with the way that we're moving into with this unconditional love, we're going to be able to solve a whole lot more problems than the people that have been elected to do it for us, because they're in their self-interest under a government. We're talking about sovereigns that are like priests and priestesses that have divine inspirational knowledge to know how to fix things so that we can all live harmoniously as one with one another and one with our environment and sustainability. Because that's what we're missing. And we have it. Intuitively, we have it. We just need to trust it. So we have to learn to trust ourselves first, then we can trust one another, and then we'll change the world.
Yep. Well said. Yeah, and just to add to what you just said, that's what I was gonna say was, what people are trying to tell us what to do. It's important to recognize that that's just like marketing. They're marketing for a bigger corporation, or
That's right.
even doctors. They're marketing for pharmaceuticals, and that's what it comes down to. It's not real knowledge. It's just marketing, so
That's such a good point, Brian. Oh my God. On point, man. On point.
Well, to add to that, Brian, and Carrie, this will definitely resonate with you, because I'm talking about meanings of words, and words have deeper meanings. They also have contractual obligations. So when so when a doctor says, and I'll just use Brian as an example. Do you understand, Brian, that eating 2 or 3 eggs a day is putting yourself in jeopardy? That, do you understand, is, if you agree with that, then you've made a verbal contract that says, I stand under your authority. You have given your authority away to that doctor, to that entity. And so it can't be an understanding. It has to be an understanding. And that's the difference between what Carrie is sharing and what we're all speaking about collectively, is the fact that it has to be the inner works and not the outer works. The inner works impacts the outer works. When we start replacing our inner works with the outer works, then our system is out of caliber and out of calibration, and things are going to fall. The tires are going to fall off. And so, words are very powerful. And so we have been so programmed in this country to believe that we are Americans and that we live free, but we don't. We don't have freedom. Brian, I was talking offline about it's criminal that farmers cannot sell raw milk and goat, all this stuff that's naturally not man-made, not processed, raw, organically. It's alive, yes, life-giving, that can't be shared or sold. That is like insane. But they can sell the stuff that you can go to any Walmart or grocery store and see on the shelf that got 100 different ingredients that the majority of them do you harm, and that's okay to sell that product over and over again.
That is backwards.
Yeah. It is. They're all in bed with one another. They're all in bed with one another.
So that's all you got to do is to start, if you're going, well, what are you guys talking about? Look, just take 15 minutes of your day and literally start to ask yourself those questions. Does Big Pharma, does your doctor benefit when you no longer have illnesses or are disease free? They don't. Okay, so does the system benefit if you come to the conclusion that, well, I haven't been to the doctors in 10 years. Why am I paying for health insurance? And you go, oh, so does the insurance companies benefit when you say, you know what, I don't need this anymore? So when you start to unravel what seems to be very complicated, you're going to realize it's very simple, and understand the reason why, as Brian says, that marketing thought form was placed on you from a young age, and why you were raised to believe that you're free when you're really not. And all those things start to come unraveling. And that's the work that we all need to be doing. That's taking back your power. That's understanding. And you got to understand why you gave it away, because you gave trust to someone who did not tell truth. And so it's, you see this all day long, and when you see it, you're just like, you just want to like shake everybody and go, man, wake up, wake up. There's so much more to do. And for those who do wake up, like you two, and you have a bunch of people who come at you and feel like don't you know you're harming yourself and you're harming other people when you tell them to eat ribeyes and eggs or fat. Now, my gosh, Carrie's lost her mind. She's telling to eat 3 or 4 sticks of butter a day.
No, 2, just 2.
All right.
Just 2.
So the reality of it is, if you understand what we are sharing with you, is the fact that you shouldn't be listening to any of us. You're going to have to ask those questions and let your higher self inside of you, your spiritual self, come alive and start to ask yourself why you gave back power. It's like if you were a gasoline tank and someone just keeps coming behind you and puncturing, and you're dropping your gas behind you, and you're just all we're asking you is go find out who took your gas. Where did that gas lead back? Oh, I got punctured at this place. Oh, this food group. Just go back and then plug the holes and make sure that doesn't happen again. So, man, I don't know where the time's gone. It's looked up, but I've really enjoyed the sharing. So, Carrie, where do you see this leading you to?
Well,
Since Christmas is every day.
To a life that is completely unstoppable, and the only thing is stopping me is myself. Like everything, the doors have been wide open up to me. Like infinite possibilities lay in front of me from this point forward. It's only the limited mindset that I have given myself to think and to believe that is holding me back from achieving everything that my heart's desire is. It's once you reach that divinity within you and you are balanced in body, soul, and spirit, nothing is going to ever hold you back from doing everything that you want to and actually becoming the change that you want to see. I see me being way more effective in what I'm doing and sharing with the languages now, because I reached that state of balance, that homeopathy state where now everything is completely as it should be. So now the bottom line for me is that my life from this point forward is no longer cause and effect. My life is causing an effect. That's the difference.
Love that. You got any closing comments, Brian?
Just one. I had you mentioned I forget what context, a guitar or something earlier, and then Carrie, you're talking about how that final puzzle piece. So I thought of this analogy with a guitar. It's like, I mean, it can be completely out of tune and you're trying to learn how to play it and you just can't get anywhere. So you tune it every string up except for one, and it's still out of tune. You still can't play it. You still can't get to where you want to get. And then you finally get that last one to fall into place and it's in perfect tune. And then your world is wide open. You can do whatever you want, so it's that kind of thing.
Yep. Then you play music to the ears that brings a soothing sound instead of chaos.
Yeah.
Peggy.
Yeah, and actually, where the world is right now, we're playing an out of tune guitar.
Badly.
It's just
and we're not even playing it good. It doesn't matter. We're playing it bad and it's out of tune. So
right.
Noise.
So, like Peggy's cousin was a Native American and indigenous people, which we're all indigenous people, but he had a friend who made flutes, and the way, and so he would talk to the trees, and so he would go to the trees and say, "Tree, do you want to be a flute?" And he would get an answer back. And so these different flutes that he made came from different trees, and they all have different personalities. And he had all these different flutes, and they all had different names, and they all had different characteristics. And so you think, well, wood's wood, a flute's a flute, but it's not. There's energy in all life and all things. And that's why everything is important. And that's why you should see as everything is important. So anyway, I just wanted to share that since Brian was going down the guitar tuning, and that popped in my mind. So Brian, during this holiday season,
Yes.
we have to walk past many foods that are tempting for the masses, but not for us. So what food do you like to eat on a regular basis, regardless of what other people decide to devour?
Well, I would just say to somebody, if they're walking past a table of desserts, go to that other table and eat your meat.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us this Friday night. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation that we three shared. I know I did.
Me too.
So anyway, we will see you guys next Friday at the same time, same place. In the interim, stay safe, stay well, stay kind, and stay out of that hospital, everybody. We'll see you.
Yeah.